Hey everybody, today we're going to go over how to multiply and divide to solve for inequality problems. You'll need to have a calculator and a handout. So the first thing you want to do is isolate your variable. So you look at your your inequality, and you can treat it just like an equation by isolating your variable by doing the opposite. So this r is being divided by a -8, so to get rid of your -8, you need to multiply by a -8 on both sides. And if you recall from back in Unit 8 where we did inequalities, that when we multiply or divide by a negative number, we always have to reverse our inequality symbol. So instead of r being greater than or equal to 5, it's going to be r is less than or equal to, and then you find the product of 5 and -8. And when your signs are different, when you're multiplying integers, it becomes a negative. So your answer here is -40. So r is less than or equal to -40. And inequalities, when you have an underline under your inequality, it means or equal to. So your circle is at -40, but it's shaded in because it can be equal to -40. And then r is less than -40. So you pick any number that's less than -40, and those will be all your solutions to your inequality. So you're going to shade all the numbers that are less than -40. Along with shading your inequality, you also have to put your variable underneath your line. It can go on either side, it does not matter. I have more room on the right side, so that's where I'm going to put it. So for number 2, our variable is on the right-hand side. It's the same process. We still have to start by isolating for our variable. So I divide both sides by a 4. Notice that you don't have to do a squiggle line down the middle. It doesn't have to be there. That's not the math. You do isolate your variable by dividing both sides by 4, and since I divided by a positive number, I keep my inequality symbol facing the same direction as it was. -20 divided by 4, again my signs are different, so my answer is going to be negative. And -20 divided by 4 gets us a -5. The quotient's -5 is less than n. That is my final inequality answer, so I'm going to graph that solution. My variable is going to go underneath the line, again on either side. This time I have an open circle at -5. It's an open circle because it's not an underlined inequality. And this one says that n is greater than -5. So I'm going to replace my variable with any number to make this true. So any number that is greater than -5 will make this true. That means I'm going to shade all of my solutions that are to the right of -5, because all of those will make my inequality true. On to number 3. This one says the product of 9a is greater than or equal to -81. Again, you're going to start by dividing by 9 to isolate your variable. Since you divided by a positive, you keep your inequality the same direction, and -81 divided by 9 is -9. Your inequality is simplified. All you have to do is graph that inequality. It's or equal to, it's underlined. This inequality is underlined, so I had to have a closed circle at -9. So look at your graph right now, it's not divided into equal segments, so you need to start dividing these into 4 more segments. And you try to be as approximate, try to get as close as you can, and you have a close circle here at -9. Your alligator is eating your a. That means your a is bigger than -9. So with negatives, the larger numbers are closer to 0. So a could be anything that is above -9, so I shade all of the solutions to the right. Again, I have to make sure I have a variable. It can go underneath the line on either side. It is an a, so make sure I have an a on the line. For number 4, my variable p is being divided by 2. The opposite of division, or the inverse operation of division, is multiplication. So to isolate my variable, I need to multiply both sides by 2. And since I multiply by a positive number, I do not reverse my inequality. So your final answer is 28 is greater than p. P is your variable, so that goes underneath your line. You have an open circle at 28. Open circle again because it's not underlined. And p is being pointed at. That means p is smaller than 28. So your alligator's eating the 28. That means 28 is the biggest number on your graph, so p could be any solution that is less than 28. For number 5, we have 2 different negatives here. We have -m divided by 4 is less than or equal to -2. I like making sure I have a positive variable at the end, so I'm going to multiply both sides by a -4. And since I'm multiplying by a negative, I need to reverse or flip my inequality symbol. My m is now going to be greater than or equal to, and the product of -2 times -4 When you are multiplying integers that have the same sign, your answer will always be positive. So negative 2 times negative 4 gets you a positive 8. M is greater than or equal to 8, so I have a closed circle on 8 because I have an underline here, and that means or equal to, and M is being eaten, so M is greater than 8. So anything greater than 8 is to the right, so I'll shade all solutions to the right. Notice that I didn't do a squiggly, I just did a solid line, that's fine, and your variable goes under the line. For number 6, 25 is less than negative 5g. I need to start by isolating my variable. Opposite and inverse operations of multiplication is division, so I divide both sides by a negative 5. Since again I'm dividing by a negative, I need to make sure I flip my inequality symbol. My inequality instead of less than is going to change to greater than. Negative 25 divided by negative 5 will get me a negative answer of negative 5, so negative 5 is greater than g. This is the inequality that needs to be graphed on your line. So you have a g down there, an open circle at 5, and g is smaller than negative 5, and all the numbers that are smaller than negative 5 are more negative, so you'd shade all the solutions to the left. For number 7, you see another fraction. Don't let that scare you, it's just an inverse operation of division. So k divided by 10, what's the opposite of dividing? Multiply. So I multiply both sides by a positive 10, and since you're multiplying by a positive number, your inequality symbol stays exactly the same, and the product of negative 1 and 10, since they're one negative and one positive, they're opposites, and opposites will get you always a negative answer when you're multiplying or dividing. So k is greater than or equal to negative 10. I have my variable underneath the line, a closed circle at negative 10, and k is getting eaten. That means any number that I substitute in for k has to be larger than negative 10. Any number larger is going to go to the right, so I'm going to shade all the solutions to the right of negative 10 because all of those solutions will make it true. And finally for 8, I'm going to start by isolating from my variable of f. I divide both sides by negative 8, and whenever you divide by a negative, you need to reverse the inequality symbol. 32 divided by negative 8 is negative 4, is less than or equal to f. F is underneath the line. I put a closed circle at negative 4, and I shade everything that is greater than that. Okay, thanks for being here. I appreciate your time. This was your class practice, and please continue on. Make sure you ask me for help if you need it, and if you have any questions, please see me. Thanks again.